When an avoidant finally feels the silence they created, it doesn't sound peaceful anymore. It sounds like everything they've lost. There comes a moment in every avoidant story, a moment they never expect, one that shakes the calm, calculated walls they've spent their whole life building. It's not the day you cried. It's not the night you begged. It's not even when you finally stopped reaching out. Their breaking point arrives later, when it hits them that they destroyed the very heart that loved them deeply, selflessly, without any conditions. When they realize that the person who once would have done anything for them now has nothing left to give, that's when the silence they created turns into a mirror, and for the first time, they are forced to face themselves. Avoidants live in a constant illusion of control. They believe that by staying detached, they're protecting themselves from pain. They tell themselves that love is dangerous, that closeness means losing freedom, and that independence equals safety. So when someone loves them with true depth, it triggers something they can't handle. Instead of receiving that love, they withdraw. Instead of appreciating it, they test it. They push away the very person who came into their life to show them what real safety and connection feel like. And every time you stayed, every time you forgave, every time you excused their coldness, they told themselves, "See, I can't be broken. They'll never leave." But avoidants don't truly break when you leave. They break when you don't come back. When you first walk away, they don't feel the absence like you do. They feel relief, a sense of control, a quietness they mistake for peace. They tell themselves it was the right choice, that love was too heavy, that distance was necessary. They convince themselves that you'll reach out again, like always. Deep down, they've built comfort around your effort. You were the constant, the pursuer, the heartbeat of the connection. Your presence allowed them to feel safe in their distance because they knew your love would still be there even when they couldn't return it. But when that love goes silent, when you don't call, when you stop chasing, when you finally let go, the illusion falls apart. Their calm starts to feel like punishment. Avoidants thrive on control. Distance gives them a sense of power, a belief that they are unshakable, that they're free from emotional chaos. But what they don't realize is that their control always depended on your engagement. It depended on your willingness to keep the connection alive. When you finally step back, their power vanishes because it was never real. It was borrowed from your energy. At first, they don't notice it. They think you're just giving them space. They tell themselves you'll come back, soft as ever, ready to forgive. But as time passes and your silence stretches, something inside them begins to shift. The same distance that once felt like protection now becomes isolation. The quiet they used to celebrate starts to choke them. They begin to feel what you once felt: confusion, doubt, longing, emptiness. And for the first time, they realize they are no longer in control. Their breaking point doesn't come all at once. It builds slowly, like pressure behind glass. They start to remember little things: your laughter, your voice, the calm you brought into their world. At first, it feels like nostalgia. Then, it becomes regret. They replay the conversations they once dismissed. They start to see how much you tried, how patient you were, how much you gave without asking for anything back. They begin to remember your love not as suffocating, but steady. And that's when it truly hits them. The distance they once felt powerful in has turned unbearable. The silence they thought they needed now reminds them every day of what they lost. Avoidants aren't heartless, they're frightened. But fear disguised as pride has a heavy price. When they lose someone who genuinely loved them, it doesn't break them right away because their emotions are delayed. They numb themselves to keep the illusion of control. But numbness never lasts. When it fades, reality crashes in. They start to feel the full weight of everything they ignored. They realize that while they were protecting themselves from vulnerability, they were also destroying connection. They begin to see the harm they caused, not only to the relationship, but to themselves. And that's when the breaking point truly arrives, when they understand they can't escape the pain anymore because it's no longer about losing you. It's about losing the version of themselves that only your love allowed them to be. Avoidants don't break when you leave because they believe leaving is temporary. They think they still have time. But when you don't return, when they realize your absence isn't a game but a choice, that's when panic sets in. They start reaching out, not out of love at first, but out of fear. Fear of being forgotten, fear of facing the emptiness they've been running from. They send a message, mention a memory, make a small move to pull you back. But when you stay silent, when you hold your boundary, they begin to feel the full truth, that they were never the one in control of how the story ends. You were. That truth cuts deeper than any heartbreak they've ever known. When an avoidant finally breaks, it's not loud or dramatic. It's quiet, internal, consuming, the kind of pain that doesn't scream, it suffocates. They start to see that what they thought was strength was actually avoidance. What they believed was power was only fear. And what they thought was peace was just emptiness disguised as control. They begin to understand that love doesn't chase forever, that patience runs out, that silence can mean closure. Their real breaking point comes the moment they realize your love was never weakness. It was the stability they can't find anywhere else. Avoidants don't fall apart when you walk away because they assume you'll come back. They fall apart when they finally know you won't. When they see that you're no longer standing on the other side of that emotional wall, waiting for them to open the door. That's when everything collapses. That's when they realize they didn't win by being distant. They lost the only heart that ever wanted to stay. Their peace turns to pain the moment your energy disappears. For a dismissive avoidant, your presence wasn't just affection, it was fuel. You were their quiet reassurance, the background safety net they pretended not to need. You were the heartbeat that reminded them they still mattered to someone. Even when they acted detached, your emotional energy filled the silence in their world. It gave them balance without effort, validation without vulnerability. But when that energy fades, their false calm starts to crumble. What once felt like freedom slowly turns into emptiness. The control they clung to starts to feel like punishment. When they walk away, they tell themselves that solitude is strength. They convince themselves that they function better alone, no pressure, no expectations. At first, they even feel lighter. They sleep better. They breathe easier. They tell themselves they escaped something chaotic, that your love was too intense, too emotional, too much. But that peace doesn't last. It's only surface stillness. The calm before the storm inside begins to rise. Because under that quiet is an emotional dependency they've never admitted. They might not have needed constant affection, but they needed your emotional presence. The comfort of knowing you were there, still trying, still available. Avoidants mistake your warmth for noise when they have it, but they feel the void the instant it's gone. At first, it's subtle. They check their phone without knowing why. They remember your voice in random moments. They scroll through memories they swore they deleted. Soon, the silence they once loved feels heavy. The same walls that once made them feel safe now make them feel trapped. They start to feel the weight of their own emptiness, the echo of everything left unsaid, the warmth they pushed away replaced by cold quiet. That's when they finally understand that peace isn't the absence of love, it's the presence of safety. And you were that safety. They try to fight the feeling. They distract themselves with work, friends, new faces. They look for stimulation to quiet the ache. But nothing works, because what they're running from isn't loneliness, it's loss. It's the truth that someone once cared for them in a way no one else ever has, and deep down, they know they didn't lose you because you stopped loving them. They lost you because they made you feel unseen. That truth becomes unbearable. Every distraction fades, every escape route closes. They begin to feel the same emptiness they used to hide behind control. What they once called peace now feels like punishment. They start to see how your absence changed everything. The spaces that once felt light now feel dull. The songs you shared sound different. The laughter they used to ignore now echoes like a memory they'll never get back. And then they realize the calm they created wasn't real peace. It was avoidance. It wasn't freedom from chaos. It was freedom from connection. And connection, they finally understand, was the only thing that ever made life meaningful. The peace they thought they wanted becomes unbearable once they see it was built on losing you. That's the painful irony of the avoidant heart. They cling to their independence so tightly that they forget what it feels like to have no one left who truly cares. The peace they thought they created on their own was never really theirs. It existed because you were still silently holding space for them, even from a distance. But when that stops, when your patience, your compassion, and your steady presence fade away, they begin to sense the real cost of their silence. They start to see that you were never the source of their turmoil. You were the calm that kept their world from collapsing. Your presence was the quiet safety beneath all their fears. And when it's gone, their life turns quiet in the most painful way. It isn't the sound they miss, it's the warmth. It's not the attention. They can get that anywhere. It's the energy, the truth, the emotional safety that only came from being understood by you. That's when their so-called peace starts to fall apart. They begin to realize that the solitude they once protected wasn't strength at all. It was fear dressed as control. They start to see that peace without love isn't peace. It's just numbness pretending to be calm. And when that numbness begins to fade, all that's left is the ache of knowing they once had someone who would have stayed forever, if only they had opened the door. The avoidant heart doesn't fall apart through chaos. It collapses in emptiness. The real storm doesn't arrive when love gets close. It begins when love finally walks away. That's when their silence starts to sting. That's when the walls they built to protect themselves start turning into a cage. That's when the peace they built becomes their pain. Not because you took something from them, but because they finally understand what they took for granted. They start to remember the warmth, the patience, the care that once made them feel alive, even when they pretended they weren't broken. They remember the love they couldn't handle, and that memory starts to haunt them long after you've gone quiet. At first, they try to convince themselves that they did the right thing by leaving, by withdrawing, by shutting down. They tell themselves it was necessary, that it wasn't the right time, that they just needed space. But time reveals truth, and when the silence stretches too long and your presence begins to fade, their mind stops replaying the excuses and starts replaying the love. Not the arguments, not the pressure, not the small misunderstandings, but the moments of tenderness, the patience, the laughter, the quiet safety you brought. For someone with avoidant tendencies, real love feels dangerous because it demands something they've never been taught to give: emotional openness. It asks them to trust, to be seen, to drop their guard. And for a person who has built their entire identity around self-protection and control, that feels unbearable. They want connection, but not exposure. They crave affection, but fear dependence. So when love finally finds them, when someone truly sees them and accepts them, they feel both drawn to it and terrified by it. It feels foreign, unsafe, even threatening. They don't know how to receive it, so they start pulling away, picking at flaws, finding reasons to doubt it. They convince themselves that you're too emotional, too demanding, too much. But the truth is, it was never that your love was too much. It was that their heart was too closed to let it in. When they finally find themselves alone, with no one left to reassure them, that's when the memories begin to hit harder. They remember how patient you were when they withdrew, how you still tried to reach them when they went silent, how you loved them without trying to fix them. They remember the warmth of your laugh, the gentleness in your tone, the way your eyes stayed soft even when they turned cold. They remember how you never stopped trying to understand them, even when they gave you nothing back. But those memories no longer bring comfort. They bring weight, because for the first time, they realize what they lost. Avoidants live in emotional delay. They don't feel deeply in the moment. They feel it later, long after it's too late. When they pushed you away, they didn't feel sadness. They felt control. But once you're gone and the silence grows heavy, the emotions they buried finally rise. The moments that once made them anxious now bring nostalgia. The affection that once felt overwhelming now feels like peace. The care that made them retreat now feels like safety. Everything starts to hit them all at once, and this time, you're not there to soften the impact. They have to face the regret on their own. Their heart begins to ache in quiet, unexplainable ways. Because avoidants don't just miss people, they miss the feeling of being seen without having to perform. You gave them that. You saw past their distance, their detachment, their armor. You loved the parts they tried to hide, and that's what they can't forget. No one else will love them like that because not many people have the strength to love someone who keeps running. That's what haunts them the most, the truth that your love was rare, and they lost it trying to protect themselves from a danger that never existed. They start to replay every small moment they ruined. The times they could have spoken, but chose silence. The times they could have stayed, but chose distance. The messages they ignored. The apologies they never made. The comfort they withheld because being open scared them. Each memory becomes a quiet lesson that arrives too late. They begin to see that the love they avoided wasn't pressure. It was peace. It wasn't control. It was connection. It wasn't confinement. It was safety. And now, they can't touch it anymore. They can only relive it. And when they finally understand that, they feel what you once felt. The pain of knowing that love was right there, within reach, and they were too afraid to hold it. The heart they thought they were shielding becomes the one they destroy. That's the cruel paradox of avoidant love. They spend their lives building walls to keep their heart safe, but those same walls become the weapon that shatters it. They believe that keeping distance protects them, that emotional control prevents pain, that silence saves them from rejection. But in trying to guard themselves from heartbreak, they end up breaking the very thing they were trying to save. Because love doesn't die from confrontation, it dies from neglect. It dies when one person keeps shutting the other out, when closeness becomes a threat instead of comfort, when the heart that wanted to give collapses under the weight of being unseen. To an avoidant, love feels like danger because it stirs emotions they can't manage. Vulnerability makes them feel exposed, and exposure reminds them of old pain, times when needing someone led to disappointment or shame. So they retreat. They convince themselves that caring less is safer, that independence is strength. When they finally meet someone who truly loves them, that person becomes both their dream and their fear. They want the bond, but they're terrified of surrender. So they push and pull, close one day, distant the next. They think they're maintaining control, but what they're really doing is teaching the other person that love isn't safe. The heart they end up destroying isn't just yours, it's their own. The heart can only endure so much suppression before it breaks. Every time they hold back affection, every time they walk away instead of speaking, every time they choose pride over honesty, they lose a little more of themselves. They start mistaking numbness for peace, avoidance for strength. But numbness isn't safety, it's emptiness. And emptiness, no matter how familiar, eventually becomes unbearable. They may look calm on the outside, but inside, their heart is starving for the very closeness they keep running from. When they lose someone who truly cared, they tell themselves it's for the best. They act detached, unaffected, almost proud. But that's only because they haven't felt the loss yet. Avoidants experience emotion like echoes. They arrive late, but when they do, they hit hard. They don't feel pain right away. They feel it when it's too late, when the messages stop, when the silence turns real, when they realize you've stopped waiting. That's when the cracks begin to form. That's when they start feeling the weight of every unsent message, every hug they never gave, every "I'm sorry" they kept inside. And that's when the truth hits. They were never protecting their heart. They were isolating it. They begin to see that love isn't dangerous. It's delicate. And the only thing that ever needed protection was their fear, not their heart. They realized that pushing people away didn't prevent pain. It only delayed it. Because when they finally feel safe enough to love again, they have to face the damage they caused. They see that the love they ran from was the very thing that could have healed them. The person they rejected was the one who saw them through compassion, not judgment. And the heart they tried to defend has now become a graveyard of missed chances and unspoken truths. The destruction isn't loud, it's silent. It happens slowly, through every moment of emotional withdrawal, through every time they choose ego over empathy, silence over truth. Each act builds another wall between them and peace. And by the time realization arrives, it's too late. The person who once fought for them has learned to fight for themselves instead. That's the breaking point of the avoidant heart. It doesn't happen when love ends. It happens when they realize they ended it themselves. They see that the real danger was never love, it was fear. They understand that silence hurt more than honesty ever could. And they finally realize that the love they pushed away wasn't there to trap them. It was there to free them. But instead of letting it heal them, they let fear repeat the same old pain. And in doing so, they didn't just lose someone who loved them, they lost the one chance to feel truly alive. They begin to realize that you were never asking for too much. You were offering something they never believed they were worthy of receiving. And now they have to face the silence of that truth, the quiet of a love that tried to reach them but couldn't get through their walls. They thought they were protecting themselves from pain, but they ended up creating a heartbreak that never truly ends. Because the love they destroyed was the only love that saw their fear and still tried to love them anyway. And that kind of love is the one they'll remember for the rest of their life. Their breaking point isn't loud, it's quiet and heavy. The world won't notice it because avoidants are experts at wearing calmness like armor. They'll go to work, laugh with others, post pictures pretending everything is fine. They'll convince everyone, even themselves, that they've moved on. But under the surface, something inside starts to crumble, slowly and silently. Their collapse doesn't look like chaos. It looks like emptiness. It's not a pain that screams out loud. It's the kind that stays in the quiet moments when no one is watching. It shows up when they're alone with their thoughts, when the distractions fade, and the truth becomes unavoidable. That's when their real breaking begins. Avoidants take pride in control. Their entire emotional world is built around keeping it. They don't allow anyone to see them weak, because to them, vulnerability feels like danger. They connect closeness with pain and distance with safety. So when they lose someone who truly loved them, they hold on to control even tighter. They tell themselves it's better this way, that love was too complicated, that they needed space to breathe. On the outside, they appear calm and detached. But detachment is just denial disguised as discipline. The peace they show isn't real peace, it's suppression, and no one can keep their feelings buried forever. Their breaking point happens inside, and that's what makes it so painful. It's not a loud explosion, it's a slow collapse from within. It's the understanding that they can't outrun emotion. That distance doesn't erase attachment. They begin to feel trapped inside their own walls. The same boundaries that once gave them control now become their prison. They start replaying memories they once ignored, the way you looked at them with care, the things you said to reach them, the soft patience in your presence. Back then, they couldn't handle that kind of love. It made them feel weak. But now, in the stillness, it's all they long for. Avoidants don't fall apart in front of others. They fall apart in silence. Their pain doesn't come as tears. It comes as sleepless nights, restless thoughts, unspoken words. They keep themselves busy until even distraction fails. They try to tell themselves they're fine, but fine stops being enough. Their heart begins to ache in ways they can't explain away. It's not just missing someone, it's realizing what they ruined. It's the weight of knowing that the person who once would have forgiven them has finally moved on. That understanding doesn't make noise, it brings stillness. The kind of stillness that takes away their breath and leaves them staring into the dark, wondering how it came to this. When an avoidant breaks, it isn't dramatic, it's lonely. It's the quiet moment when they finally realize no one is coming to fill the emptiness, that the love they ran from is gone, and their silence has turned into their punishment. They start to see that what they believed was control was actually fear, that their so-called emotional independence was just avoidance hiding behind logic. They realize it was easier to push you away than to face their own vulnerability. And once that truth hits, the pain arrives in full force. It isn't sharp, it's heavy, suffocating, and constant. It doesn't fade with distraction. It waits for them in every quiet moment. The silence that once comforted them now suffocates them because it's no longer a choice. It's a consequence. They see that their peace came at the cost of connection, and their pride came at the cost of love. The breaking point for an avoidant isn't a fight or a dramatic goodbye. It's the moment they can no longer lie to themselves. When they finally understand they didn't escape pain, they created it. That's when their silence stops protecting them and begins haunting them. And in that suffocating stillness, they finally feel what they made you feel, alone, unseen, and longing for a connection that no longer exists. They never expected you to heal. They thought your pain would keep you tied to them. They counted on your empathy, your patience, your hope. They assumed that if they ever changed their mind, you'd still be there waiting. That belief was their comfort when guilt began to surface. They told themselves you'd always care. But when they see you at peace, when they feel your energy completely gone, when your silence turns from waiting into freedom, that's when their illusion falls apart. They start to see that they weren't as powerful as they thought. They didn't just lose a relationship, they lost the emotional anchor that gave their life meaning. Avoidants confuse attention with importance. Your love made them feel special, not because they gave the same energy back, but because they felt needed. Your patience, your effort, your tears, all of it gave them a sense of worth. When that stops, they're left facing the emptiness they used to hide from. At first, they tell themselves they're fine. They say you've changed, that you've become cold, that maybe you never cared that much. But those excuses don't last. The truth starts to echo in their silence. You didn't stop caring overnight. You simply healed. You didn't become distant. You became free. You didn't stop loving. You just started loving yourself more. That's when regret settles in. Not the kind that makes them call right away, but the kind that slowly eats at them. They start to remember your strength, the way you stayed even when things were hard, the way you understood them when they couldn't understand themselves. They realized that the version of you they once called too emotional was actually the version that loved them the most. And now that version is gone. You've grown into someone who no longer needs to fix broken people or prove your worth to anyone. That change shakes them deeply because your healing takes away their control. Avoidance live in emotional delay. By the time they realize what they've done, it's already too late. You've grown past the story that once bound you. You no longer need their presence to feel complete. And that truth hurts them more than any rejection ever could, because in their mind, they always believed they'd have access to you. They never imagined you'd rebuild your life without them in it. They thought healing meant waiting, but healing meant becoming. And when they finally see that the love you once gave has turned into self-respect, that's when their ego truly breaks. Their regret isn't about losing the relationship, it's about losing the emotional version of you that made them feel safe without having to grow. Now they're left watching someone they once took for granted become someone out of their reach. They realize the love they rejected was the same love that would have stayed if they had only been brave enough to accept it. They see that while they were avoiding pain, you were transforming it. While they were running, you were healing. And in that reversal, they finally understand what loss really feels like. Not the loss of another person, but the loss of comfort, power, and emotional certainty. Their deepest regret isn't losing you. It's seeing you rise. It's watching you become the calm they always looked for, the stability they once found in your arms but were too afraid to hold on to. They realize too late that love doesn't disappear when it's not valued. It transforms, and yours transformed into something they can never touch again. That's the moment their pride shatters completely, because they finally see that your healing didn't mean you stopped loving. It meant you finally remembered that you deserve more than someone who's afraid of it.